He laughed like crazy. Hello, everyone. I already had a laughing fit. We already cracked up laughing. We didn't even start. So this is season
Two.
two recap. And our guest is Max Lloyd-Jones, who is Tom Thornton, Jack's brother. And he'll be on in a little bit. We're going to be chatting first, and then he'll come in and he'll join us. So, just as a recap, for those of you, some people were asking me, they didn't realize, and I don't know, I don't know what's going on with my channel and what little notifications are getting pumped out. The algorithms are very strange sometimes with YouTube, but we did the movie first. That was this is a 10-part series we're doing. So our first one was of the movie, and then our second one is of season one, and now our third is of season two. And then we'll do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, which makes 10. That is your little lesson for the night. I'm overtired, so I'm like really silly. It's been a day. So, Miss Kathy, you and I just said that this was a jam-packed season, and the writing for me, I thought was exceptional. I love this is actually probably one of my favorite seasons, and I just loved all the storylines, all the characters that they introduced. I was loving it. So you want
I,
to do you want to share?
yeah, I actually made a list of some of the milestone stuff that was going on in season two.
I really
Um, Jack and Elizabeth exchanged their first "I love yous." I think that was the first season we got to know Elizabeth's family.
yes.
Um, Coal Valley got its new name during the season. There was a budding romance for Bill and Abigail and got nipped in the bud. Um, uh, Abigail had her romance with Pastor Frank that I absolutely fell in love with, both the storyline and Pastor Frank. Lee and Rosemary started their courtship. They were already doing their empowerment of women thing, in addition to the women who worked in the coal mine to replace their husbands. They actually had the lady lawyer represent them
Yeah.
in the case against the mine, which they won.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the topics that we'll be talking about tonight with our guest, the whole Tom and Julie storyline, and they were complete scamps. They were just, you know, they were just cute as buttons,
I know. I love this season.
and
Um,
everybody looked so young.
I
Everybody
know. Oh,
was dewy, fresh, young.
yes, their faces. And I was saying I loved Elizabeth's hair in this season. It just looked so good on her. Like I love the style. And you know what? When you look at season one and then you look at season two, even the cinematography is very different. I remember season one being dark, and I think the set changed and whatnot. But season two, everything was fresh. The clothing, the hair, all of it. And I liked it. I liked the direction it went in. I was talking to one of my relatives today, and they were saying now they started watching the show because I wanted them, I watch it. So they when they first started watching it, the first two episodes they said they didn't like of season one and almost didn't go through with it. And I'm like, really? I love them, but there was something about it. And then they said they also noticed the huge change when season two came around. And I was like, yeah, I do have to agree with.
Yeah.
Also, something that I liked from season two were like remembering and looking in retrospect, remembering all these wonderful, juicy characters that they were introducing to us. And you know what? Rip, the dog, he was there. And
Yes.
as seasons went on, people had always said, "What happened to Rip? What happened to Rip?" And that was one of my questions I had asked. And then I found out the answer, and that was that the doggy passed away. Rip passed away. So they just never really talked anymore about it. Like, I think it wasn't much after when the character of Jack passed away. So
So did they put like "Rip R.I.P."? I'm sorry.
I was smiling. I don't know, Kathy. I mean, that poor little puppy. No,
I,
I don't
I
know.
know. I miss Rip too.
Okay, okay. So, one of the things I wanted to ask Max when he comes on is, I know that his story takes place in Hamilton, but I was wondering if he actually was part of that set because I know that the exterior of the house the house for Elizabeth's family was, I forget what it was. It was some big building. It's still there. You might know out in the audience. But I was wondering how they did the interiors. Like, where was that? It's a great question for me to ask one of the directors or something. They're all so busy right now. I don't know if they'll answer my questions. But anyway, okay. So anything you want to add before I go on my blah 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 talking?
Nope. It was wonderful revisiting that season because everything was just still kind of new, and we were getting to know the characters and
Hmm.
looking at where it was versus where they are now, especially like Rosemary and Lee from the first courtship to where we are now. I just thought it was really a lot of fun. So have at it.
So Rosemary was, for lack of a better word, a jerk. She wasn't really nice. And in the very beginning, when the girls are waiting, all the women, are waiting outside for the prosecutor to come, and they're looking for Sam, and they realize out steps Samantha Madison, and they're all having their little dialogue and whatnot. Rosemary had come by, and she was talking about, oh, I think I once dated a Sam, or was it a Sam, right? And then they're like, well, how many people did you date? And then Elizabeth goes, maybe you should have made a list. And she goes, oh, Rosemary says, I, and at the top of it would be Jack.
She was a piece of work.
She was. Those they softened her though as the season went on, especially when Lee was involved in her life, and he was just enamored. He goes, she could sell ice in an ice storm or something. He just loved everything about her.
I think he took one look and he knew that's
Yeah.
her and me. It's going to happen.
Yeah, he did. And I loved how he made her jealous. Remember, as the season was going on and she kind of was like playing hard to get. So he's like, okay. Do you remember what he did? He got Molly to act like they were dating
Yes, yes. There was a scene in the store.
in the
Molly
saloon too.
yes, I do remember that. That was fun. It was fun watching the couples get together, work their way
I
to.
know. I,
Yeah,
I loved it. I loved it. I thought that was great. And there was, the B storyline. I call it a B storyline. The whole storyline with Elizabeth's family, especially with like Julie and what was going on with Julie. She had her own storyline going on. There were scenes where they were back in Hamilton and Elizabeth wasn't even there. You see Julie having breakfast with her mother and her father, and there was that whole situation where she wanted to drive the car and then Tom takes the blame for it. And that's when I didn't like Elizabeth's family, especially her father, because he acted like a snob. And technically, the character of her father from the books and the movie was more of a gentle man who was very much accepting of different classes, and here he was just like not nice, like sort of uppity.
yeah. I wonder if they decided that they needed to cull down the canvas, and that's why we,
Yeah.
kind of lost touch with that aspect of it. Or I'm not sure why, but I agree with you.
Um, I also liked just a fun fact. I was telling Kathy, I had interviewed, I'm just jumping all over the place. I interviewed Andrea, and she was saying how when she first came on to When Calls the Heart, the hospital scenes were actually done, they reconstructed like the interior of the school slash church. And after she told me that, and I went back and I watched the scenes, I was like, oh, now I see it. But at the time, I didn't realize that. So they were using those sets for that. I'm not going to talk too much because there's some things that when Max comes on, I wanted to ask him. Some things I found that were interesting with some scenes he had with Andrea. And I also love, like you were saying, you love the scene with Jack and Tom together. And what was it, the pocket watch, or what was it? Were you saying that? Or was somebody
But
in
I
this?
know what you're talking about. I
Yeah,
like.
I think somebody was saying it in the comments. There were a lot of like, I don't know, that storyline went on for so many episodes, and it was like big stories, but different the way the writing were. They ran together. It wasn't like all this 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there kind of thing. Good writing.
Yeah, the one thing that I found, not irritating, just kind of question mark was
Mhm.
the whole storyline with Elizabeth and Charles. And it's
Yeah.
like, Charles, read the room, hun. And I thought that Elizabeth indulged him for way longer than she needed to,
Yeah.
considering how Jack, and like, do you not notice that Jack's doing a slow burn every time this guy is within 6 yards of you? And yeah. And Jack wasn't being too bright either. You stand there and watch the guy propose and then you flitter away and don't wait to, see what the response is. That was all kind of contrived, but it was all to move stories. So I get it.
I get it. And then when he sees Faith, there's a little rift between the two of them, and
Yep.
he meets Faith, and she kisses him on the cheek, and he kind of like looks off at her, and I was thinking, oh, really? And then when Faith comes to town, there's kind of like, oh, a little bit of like jealousy there. But she says to him, don't forget who you are, she tells him. So that's what he says to Elizabeth. I mean, and when she brings up Faith, he goes, she told me not to forget who I am. You tried to change me. You wanted me to work for your father, and I don't know. It just took them some time to get to know each other. And they have that alone scene in the mine when Rip runs off and they have to, and be together. And she's like, I don't want to leave yet because when we're out there, it's just us in here, and that was the whole I love you. Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. Something I love, and this is probably from Allie Devereaux in her Bible that she has, and I love how they mimic this. And I think people know where I'm going to go with this because I think others had mentioned it when we were analyzing season 9. So there is a really adorable scene where Jack comes into the school to, I don't know if it's when he was fixing something or he was putting the heat, like fixing the wood or something, making it warmer in the school. And she's trying to teach grammar, Elizabeth. And they start talking about her getting married. And Emily raises her hand and she wants to know when she's going to marry Mountie Jack. And she's like, what? And then the other little boy goes, oh, my mother says you're marrying Charles. She saw you after you kissed him. And then, right. Oh, okay. So that happened again in season 9 when she's sitting out on the steps and the children are around her and she sees Lucas and they go, are you going to marry Mr. Bouchard? Like, again, they repeated it, like they made her. And I thought that was cool. Yeah. There's so much that we could talk about, but let's before we go on, let's look and see what everyone's out here saying and sharing with us. Who's got some stuff? First of all, everyone's saying hello, hello, hello. Rest in peace, Rip. Oh my God. Janice says your sense of humor, Kathy. Oh, Christina loves Pastor Frank. Brian's here. He's saying hello. Oh, yes. Yes, yes. Rona's saying that Detective Jack figuring out that Tom wasn't driving with Faith's help. Mm-hmm. Yes. We'll talk about that, especially when Max comes on. What else we have here?
Arlene knows me so well.
What'd she say? I missed it. Tell
me. Kathy's favorite part of season 2 is Pastor Frank. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. You've said that many a times.
Love a bad boy, and a bad boy pastor is even better.
Oh my God. Yes, Bill rescued Clara. We're going to talk all about that because that's one of my most favorite relationships. And they are so faithful to that relationship till this day. Yeah. Carrie, I'm going to put this up there because there's a lot that happens. So Bill goes and he gets Clara out of her situation. It's almost like being an indentured servant, right? Mm-hmm. So I just from the get-go, they kind of connected and she needed a father figure because she really didn't have any family. And they continued that season after season, her relationship with Bill. And I loved when she was getting married and he's trying to find a spot. This isn't season 2. I'm just saying how consistent they were.
How can I be in this? Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, what? What do you mean? You're walking me down the aisle.
Yeah.
Love that. And even though Clara and Jesse aren't there, they are. And Bill laughs and he reads the letters that they're sending them, and I love that they're being consistent with that. That's cute. I was really hoping that maybe Bill would go visit when he's trying to get healthy. Maybe he would go visit Clara and Jesse. That would be part of the storyline. I mean, I don't know. All right. What else? Then Bill has a huge storyline in that season. There's the whole discovery of, remember, she finds his ring and a picture Abigail, and she realizes he's married, right?
Well, she figured it out. Well, didn't Nora show up first and tell her, and then she started snooping around and found the
Maybe
evidence?
something. Yeah. Did it go in that order? I thought maybe it was afterwards. Anyway, he says, no, she finds it, talks to him. He said that his wife was, she is led to
He
believe that,
lost his wife. Oh,
yeah, but it's not really, it's the way he
right.
worded it, which
It's what
shot him
he,
in the foot. You know
his
what I mean?
wife,
That was
yeah.
it.
And I remember being shocked because I was convinced that's the way they were going, Bill and Abigail, but she turned him off, and that was that. And
Yeah.
it was, she cited deception. He's like, I didn't lie. I did lose it. She said, yeah, but you deceived me, which I found interesting because a little later on, when you find out that Frank had secrets, she was kind of okay with it. It's like, yeah, well, we'll move on from that. So I like the transition of Bill from early on. He was like action figure and hero for the town and involved with this woman and that woman, I think three of them, three different women. And he has really evolved into the father figure and the elder statesman of the town. And I do hope they go somewhere with him and Molly because they both deserve,
They
you know,
do.
to have someone. And I think they make a cute couple.
They do. They do. I'm total agreement with that.
And then Henry
Um,
was a rodder. I mean, he was still a rodder back in those days. It's like, yikes. Who would believe he turned into the gentle lion he's turned out to be?
yeah, I know. I know. Janice, which I was quite happy rewatching season two. And yes, there are two different plots for sure. Yes. That like the whole Hamilton storyline that it revolves around Julie and Tom. It was like it was a mirror storyline for Jack and Elizabeth. But I was a little disappointed about how it ended. He was going to make something of himself. That's where he was going off. And she like I almost felt like she would wait for him and they would somehow reconnect one day. And we do have his Tom does come back and I forget if what season it is. He does come back for a little piece of time. But they never have them get back together, which I kind of was sad about. I like that.
They have a history of doing that with these young couples. They did it with Tom and Julie, and they also did it later on with oh gosh, who was Lee's niece
Oh
and
yes, Rachel.
Henry's daughter, Henry's son. At least
Rachel.
at least they referred to them off screen as saying, "Oh, they're off and they're getting married or whatever." But Tom and Julie, they just kind of dropped. And
Yeah.
again, I'm wondering if they felt like the canvas was too full, or they got, we've got this many, 20 something characters and this many older ones and this many younger ones. And maybe they felt like they had enough of the young set.
I don't know. But even though maybe it was just that's it for that season and it was done. It was okay. Like I know it was open-ended and I just was hoping to see in other seasons, but there still was an ending to it. And it wasn't rushed. Everything took like its time episode after episode, which I really liked a lot. Um Another thing that like was one of my favorites was the whole thing about like Charles. Not that it was my favorite, but I liked how it just didn't stay there. It weaved back into Hope Valley. Do you know what I mean? And they finished it. They didn't kind of like leave us hanging. And like you said, it was kind of silly. You said it was to move storyline, and it was kind of silly how Jack was kind of behaving, but then he finally, confronts Elizabeth about it. And I think isn't this when correct me if I'm incorrect, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't this where we find out that Elizabeth really wasn't worried about his class and his job with the money? It was more the safety.
Right.
Like she was right, like she was hoping he would take that job and he would be safer. And he's like, but this is who I am. He was thinking it was class and money, right?
Right. Right.
And that's when she almost dies and gets hurt and he helps her and he's like, look what you could have been your yeah. And that's what convinces her to say, I'll do this. Yeah. Yeah.
They
It's just
go ahead. Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say they've had in the smaller roles and in the cameos throughout the series, but especially in season two,
Mhm.
the folks who portrayed Elizabeth's family,
Mhm.
Charles, who I wasn't crazy about the character, but I adore the actor.
Yeah, he's a
He
good
can
guy.
do comedy. He can do the strangler who lives in my
Yes.
spare room. He can do
Yes.
it all. He's very very good.
The
But that,
strangler who lives in my spare room.
yeah, like the strangler from the guest house. Yeah,
Dear
they
Lord.
had. I give kudos to the casting director who's casting these parts, small and large, because they are they're doing the trick. They're turning in the performances.
What about how Pastor Frank comes along and you said they have the whole relationship, but he's got a past, right? Like you had
Mhm.
said.
Yep.
And that's how we get introduced to
Jesse.
Jesse.
Mhm,
Yes. Yes.
mhm.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool too. So there's a cool surprise that comes at the end of that season, one that I wasn't really expecting to have happen, and that was remember who gets arrested? Bill gets
No.
arrested.
Yeah.
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 And but I knew that he was good. I knew it was all part of a, like a ruse so he could get the info.
And
So go ahead.
I love the example of male bonding in season two that's centered around Pastor Frank. Um, because when he, pulled out the six guns and had to go riding out again. Who was it? I know. I think Jack, and was it Bill? They all kind of rallied around him, and they went out to help. Abigail. Abigail went off on everybody, and she's like, first of all, how can you condemn this man? He's been a good pastor, blah blah blah, and how can you let him go out and look for these bad guys by himself? She was so passionate about defending him and standing up for him. I think that was a wonderful relationship, and I don't know why it just kind of petered out.
I don't know. That's something we'll have to ask the actor because I want him to come on. I keep asking for him to come on and we don't get a response. So we'll see. I don't know if maybe I have the wrong info and actually he has his own number out there like to call his company. So I might have to do that.
Yeah.
As we're talking, this is interesting and I wanted to bring this up. Episode 100. Maybe everybody will be back. That is all the good characters. So I may have shared this before, but I have a theory, and I really, every time I turn around, more and more, I think the theory is a go. I think it's a retrospect. I think they're going to flashback. I don't necessarily think that episode 100, everybody says is the wedding, is the wedding. I don't know. Maybe it is a wedding. It's part of the wedding. They have like these flashbacks and they think back. But I really do think we're definitely going to be visiting the past and then, of course, deal with the present and then some future stuff. And I always thought that they would do, I know this is off topic of season two, but they would do something someone visiting Jack's grave, whether it would be Lucas going there to say, look, you gave me this wonderful opportunity. I will take good care of. Someone said they didn't like that idea, but I'm going to take good care of your son. This is a gift you gave to me and I appreciate it. And we will not let your memory die. Or Elizabeth having the conversation and little Jack being out there or something. I was just curious. And then what happened was they're very careful about, and I could have done a video on this and I didn't, very careful about showing anything, right? Because little accidents happen. So one of the grips, like they were doing the lighting and stuff, and it was two women and they had like the canvas over and they were making a funny picture and face, and off to the side you could see they're out in the field where the graves are. So
Mhm.
there is a graveside scene.
See, I could see a scene where Nathan could be out there saying, I did the best I could to, protect them, and they're doing fine, and I felt like I owed you that or whatever. But yeah, I could see several people. Remember how close Bill was with him? He was like a son to Bill. So,
Yeah, I know. uh, I don't know. I thought this and I see that they are filming out there. So I'm like, okay. But they want everything to be hush hush. So it's not like I want to go make a big deal out of stuff. They want to really surprise us. And I think that
And I
that's,
want to be surprised.
yeah, I think that that's cute. So I'm getting a little distracted. Let's again go back to what some of our peeps are saying before we move on to anything. Um, okay, what's this one? Oh, I guess when they took on, because we had talked about Pastor Frank, they didn't ask him any questions to prove he was a pastor, but he was. He really was a
He
pastor.
was a pastor. Whose wedding? There was there was a fake pastor trying to marry somebody. And that's how he was introduced. You saw his feet first, the boots, and then he
Uh-huh.
walked in, and I think he said, I don't know who you think you are, but I'm Pastor,
I think it was the guy who had like a limp, and the woman, she had a son already, and it was like I think that's who that, it might have been that wedding. Was it that one? I forget who. Mary. Her name was Mary.
I'll have to go back. It really breaks my heart when I go back and watch the episodes with him because I know how it turns out. So it's difficult for me. I get emotional, but
I know, me too.
yeah,
Maybe someone out here in Never Neverland will help us because they're pretty good with that.
yeah.
So wait a minute. He did come in one time to fix the windows because of a storm coming. That's true. He was fixing the windows, but the scene I'm talking about, she wants to do a grammar lesson, and they start asking her about if she's Emily raises her hand. He's putting the fire or something. Emily raises her hand and says, are you going to marry Mountie Jack? But one of the things is she wants to get back to her grammar lesson. She goes, let's talk about, she's supposed to say prepositions, and she says proposals. All
They
right,
were so cute.
there was some good stuff here. What's this? I was trying to remember when Clara started going with Jesse because she was asked by someone else to go to the festival. Yes. Yeah.
I remember when he would come to the what are they, the mercantile,
Mhm.
and kind of flirt with her or try to get her attention because he liked her from the get-go, and she was like,
Yes.
oh please, outlaw, no, I don't think so.
No, not you.
Their whole courtship at the beginning, or even pre-courtship, was
Yeah.
just so cute because he was trying so hard to get her to pay attention to him.
And to make something of himself. And who gave him a chance? Lee.
Well, so did Pastor Frank.
Of
He
course,
was,
Pastor Frank did, yes, but Lee gave him a chance, like with
yep,
work and being
yep,
more responsible, and that was cute. Arlene said, "I love when Pastor Frank was acing the dartboard while Lee was standing there at the board, thinking, yeah, what kind of pastor school did you attend?" Oh my god, oh my god.
yeah. They used to have so much fun with the characters between each other.
How is Bill still a Mountie? He leaves the Mounties in season one. He was a forensic inspector for the Mounties. And that's what he was. So it wasn't like he had to wear the uniform, but he kept the uniform for a really long time. Remember, they
Yep.
in season 8, and then he had to give it back.
He
And
was heartbroken when they
yeah,
said, well, we really need the uniform back,
yeah,
too.
yeah. So he was and he always says that he's a forensic inspector for the Mounties. um. Oh, here it is. Whatever happened to that guy that asked Clara to the ice cream festival? I don't know.
Was that the guy, the blacksmith?
He did, Kevin.
I'm asking.
Was it Kevin? I mean, no, I don't think that was Kevin. Kevin wasn't there yet. We see more of Kevin late, like when Fiona and that when they're around a little later, I think. When the courtship, I think I could be wrong. I don't think he was in season 2 or 3. I think it's more like 4 and 5. Yeah, he does come back for the baptism of Jack. That's what they're saying about Tom. That's true. Yes, he did need to find his way in life. That was the whole thing. Um, Candace. I did read that everyone who went to the Hope Valley got a sneak peek of season 10. I don't think that's true. I mean, no. Maybe Candace, but I don't think so because listen to me. It would be leaked out. It'd be everywhere. Nah. Mary Dunbar. That's it. He was trying to marry. Remember, I said Mary Dunbar and Dwight Graves. Yes, thank you. We knew that was out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. So somebody was asking questions. Yeah, here it was. That was Mary Dunbar's wedding and the fake Bible selling con man and his daughter. Yes. Remember, he came to okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. And what was the no, the minor and Mary? We got that, no married. Okay. But there was somebody else. Elizabeth told Jack about almost the same thing about not being okay. Elizabeth told Jack almost the same thing about not being brave enough to marry him, similar to what she told Nathan in season 8, which I have to tell you is the one thing I can't even believe I'm speaking these words. It's the only thing. And I was mad at the writers. It was so clear. And, I've talked about this a million times about Elizabeth choosing Lucas. I get that. But that little line there, and like her saying, I just can't, made it sound like, I can't choose you. So I'm choosing Lucas because he has a safer job. That was not the case. But in that little line, when she says that, I'm like, oh, see, that
Pop
that
out.
that's what the people that weren't paying attention hooked into, And I was like, that was the one little thing that was wrong that shouldn't have been in. Yeah. Yeah. Because there was more to that. There wasn't that. It's just because he was a
That
mountain.
wasn't the only thing. That
Yeah.
probably was a factor, but not a huge factor.
Or because he says, I'll quit my job. And she's like, really? No, you won't. Which I thought was juvenile.
Or if you do, you'll be miserable. So
Yeah, I'm going to quit my job. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Something about Marcus and Chris did room together earlier in their lives. Oh yeah, Marcus and that's true. Marcus and Chris are friends. They were roommates. Yes, yes, yes. But they were not on the show at the same time. Yeah. Marcus, hold on. Marcus is a really cool guy. He had some movies that came out when I was interviewing him and talking. He was talking about bringing things back to his hometown and like using people from the hometown and just making people understand that they had other options than just the whatever was going on right there. I mean, he's pretty cool. He does some cool stuff. Yeah. All right, I think we're good here. So soon Max will be on. Everybody's arguing about who was they said the saloon. Oh, here we go. They said the saloon was off limits for the Hardy reunion tour because it was all set up for something special and they didn't want to give anything away. That makes sense. So they only could stand on the outside. I got it.
they must have covered up the windows too, so you can't look inside and see what's going on. Interesting.
Oh, Rosemary Play put on for Lee was so sweet, and poor Hickam was worried Lee would fire him for helping her. I know, I remember that. So, one of the other things that I loved is that we see early on some cars drive in Hope Valley. Always, I think when one of my favorite scenes is the horse riding scene, but when Jack is going to give Elizabeth a lesson and she's walking with that gaucho type outfit she has on so she could swing her leg over. We see a car coming through and that's the judge. The judge is sort of in Gowan's pocket. And I was like, oh, they had more of those fancy cars back then. And Max actually got to drive one, or Julie. We never even asked Julie about if she really drove it, did we? When Charlotte was on, did we ask her that? I forget. My goodness, my brain. I've talked to so many people. But when he comes on, I want to see if he had to take a little lesson and he actually got to drive the cars. But he'd be one of the first that did that.
So much fun. Yeah.
Yeah. People were allowed in the saloon, but were not allowed to take photos. Okay. All right. But why? Why would you be allowed but not to take photos? Yeah. I think Emily was the Opal of earlier days or before Opal came on set. Kind of. She was. She was really cute and she was tiny. She was young.
Yeah.
She was very young. And I find it interesting because I would like to talk with her, but sometimes things are off limits. Remember when we had on last week, we had on Chella, and we were talking about how she wasn't on, but her children were for a bit, and then just only one stays, Emily. And Emily was the youngest. So what happened to her two brothers? And it wasn't like the one brother, he was old enough. Was she the youngest or the middle child? Old enough to run off and go somewhere. Remember we said, where's Emily's mom? But anyway, she got to stay. She was so tiny and cute. Wasn't she the cutest? Like a
She's like a little doll.
Yeah. And you are right, like Opal. Okay. Lee's costume designs. were a lot flashier. And yes, they were. That's those pants.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the thing. He was a lot flashier a character. He really settled down and matured over the years. But he was a I don't even know, a firecracker. He just came in and he was every bit Rosemary's equal.
He was. He loved her. He loved her spunk and whatever. He found all that endearing. I laugh because then as time goes on, it reminds me of when they had to take a photograph of the people who were on the town council in season 9. And they're all standing there, and in runs Rosemary to take the picture. It's just great acting. This is so great. And they're standing there, and she's like, "Oh, you look like gloomy guy," and everybody's just looking. And so she starts singing, and not Jack. Well, Jack's his real name. And Bill goes like that, puts his arm over, and he taps Lee like take care of your wife. He's like, "Rosemary." Oh, all right. Oh my God. Oh my gosh, he indulges her quite often, doesn't he?
They're quite the comedy duo.
Because Rosemary had to be the bright bulb. Okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I feel like maybe, I said this before, I feel like Lee's going to become like more crazed in the pregnancy. I don't know. I thought that he would be afraid and worried and drive her insane that something's wrong. And, I don't know.
That'll be interesting to see if she turns into, zany Rosemary or totally calm, mature. I'm the only one that's got my head on straight about this kid, Rosemary. It'll be interesting.
She wasn't that calm when Elizabeth was giving birth. Remember, she had to run around and right away she started to try to take credit after the men came by. And then, look, these are fighting words here. Read that one yourself, Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. I hate to say that I never liked Pastor Frank, really. I thought Abigail hooked up with him too quickly. Also, Frank was very suspicious and mean toward Carson. Oh, someone needed to be mean and suspicious toward Carson. I've always been suspicious of a guitar playing doctor. I'm kidding. I like Carson. No, I think Pastor Frank that's the kind of stuff they said and still say about Lucas. But I think Pastor Frank, what you see was what you saw was what you got. I don't think there was any hidden agenda except for the part about him having the outlaw past. And I think he had reformed, turned over a new leaf, and that was all there was to that. I don't think there was anything else, any underlying layers that secretive. So I'm sorry you didn't like him, but try and go back and watch again if you haven't, because he really was a charming character.
He was. I love how he was in the mercantile and Flo was saying all the stuff that she did, and then he's like, "Hello." He's right there, and he had some words and kind of smacked them down. I love that. What's this one? Christine was saying maybe Gabe went to become a Mountie and was assigned somewhere else, and her other brother went to college. What's that? What happened here?
Emily's older brothers. Is that what that's about?
Whose older brothers?
Emily.
Oh,
Rona. Yeah, Rona's asking about Matt Landry. Rona. Pastor Frank was played by Mark Humphrey.
Yes. I think they had wait a minute, there was something else I wanted to highlight. Okay, yes. We didn't even get a chance to talk about this. Don't you think Elizabeth was snobby towards Tom? Her father was terrible towards Tom, saying all the things that he did. And I loved how respectful Jack was in his answers. Mm-hmm. He didn't try to negate what he was saying. Like, yes, he was in a lot of trouble. He knew that, that, and he's trying to say locking him up in jail. I don't know if that would be the best thing. But you know what? They surely had to eat some humble pie when they found out that it was their wild child daughter who was really the one who, did what all the driving and the crash and almost killed Tom.
Yeah, I don't think Elizabeth was really snobby toward anyone. I think what happened was when she went back to visit her hometown, she kind of regressed. and she just fell back into the old lifestyle, the old habits, and not meaning it maliciously, she just got back into the old, you know, the old Elizabeth's habits. And so lack of self-awareness or lack of awareness of how she was being. And Jack had never seen that side of her. So
Yeah, Janice is saying she agrees with you. I agree with Jack. Elizabeth was different when she was in Hamilton. I loved how they called them the Royals, right? They were the Royals of Hamilton, and Tom called her Princess. Remember, like he said Princess Elizabeth, and Faith kind of like laughed. Like Faith knew who they were, even though they had really never met. Yeah, yeah. Let's say the reason she was snobby was she was being protective of Julie from Tom. Yeah, it's correct.
but again, lack of self-awareness or awareness that her sister was just as scampy as Tom was.
Yes. Yes, maybe more so.
Mm-hmm.
They were the same. But they, like her little sister that was a hot mess and his little brother that was a hot mess.
Yep.
Again, a mirror couple because then it helped to, like show their storyline as well. Okay. This is your friend, Kathy. Read that.
My bestie. I agree, Kathy. I really liked Pastor Frank. He came in right. Why would he walk in and announce his past right away? He is cute with those dreamy eyes. Yes, yes, and yes. Thank you.
We had somebody from Norway. I didn't ignore that. I think it was Norway. We'll have to go back. This one says, "Hello, ladies from North Carolina, I guess. I have loved listening to you both. I think Lee has been too wife controlled this past season." Oh, Avis. Maybe we're going to see a change. We're going to see a change in him. And I think you might be correct. They were flying their little flag, and
Can I address something, Avis?
Yes, go ahead.
I think it's not so much. This is reminding me of a scene from Desperate Housewives when her character was accused of, submitting to his wife too much. I think Lee just knows how to handle Rosemary, and so it's very, very intentional when he gives in to her. He's given in to her for a reason, but he's just off doing his own agenda. If you go back and look at the scenes, 9 times out of 10, Lee gets what he wants.
Yes.
What he thinks Rosemary needs, but he gets it in a way that she thinks that she is coming out on top with that. So if you look closely, I don't think Lee is given into her as much as it might appear on the surface.
I agree with you. I do. But Lee was a little different this year, almost like he was a little bit depressed. And I love how in the end he was all excited because that's why I think he's going to be over the top wild. And you were right. He does know he loves her. I mean, he thinks she is it, but he knows how to, the same happens with Lucas and Elizabeth. That's why, first of all, Rosemary and Lee's marriage, to me, I just love their relationship. I mean, I have a page dedicated to Rosemary and Lee. I love them. I feel like Lucas and Elizabeth are going to have that same kind of relationship where he knows how to tease her. That sadness in him for a while is sort of lifting, and they got that little teasing going on, and he knows how to, because she's like independent. Remember the whole thing over the phone? Yeah. And how he kind of let her go, and then it just worked out, and they had some ice cream. You know what I mean? I feel like they're going to have that kind of a relationship as well.
Yep.
Yeah. And where Jack and Elizabeth was totally, they had that spark and whatnot, but it was different. They did fight.
She was much younger.
Yes.
She didn't have the maturity and, the wisdom that she's got now as a widow and a single mom.
Yes. Oh, well, this is sad, Kay. The boy who played Emily's middle brother passed away in real life. I think
was that him with the drugs?
I really think I remember hearing that. Yeah. And what's this? On the Hope Valley reunion Saturday, Kevin quipped that Lee was never in charge. Oh, he says that, but he was.
They really left him at sixes and sevens this season, and I don't know why. I can't come up with any reasonable explanation, and maybe they'll address it in season 10. But it's like the lumberyard. He wasn't doing that. He kind of worked for Rosemary, and then he kind of got the bug where he's a good writer, and they're offering him a column.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ran for mayor, and he was bitterly disappointed when he didn't get that. So it's like he's been on this journey of self-discovery. And I hope in season 10 he figures out what he wants to be when he grows up.
A dad. You know what? Our guest is here.
Oh,
are you ready, Max? Or are you okay? You ready for us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
We can.
We only see part of your handsome face, so you gotta like
Oops,
move
okay.
over
There
a
we
little.
go.
He might be
Figuring it out.
going for an effect there, Roxanne.
Oh, okay. Just like
No.
the side. No. He's like, no, I'm tired. No. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good, thank you. Nice to meet you both.
I'm Roxanne. This is Kathy.
Hi there.
And
Thanks for having me.
oh, you're welcome. We're so excited you're here. Now, on the I don't know what device you're on, but if you look on the right-hand side, there's like a comments and a private chat. Do you see that? If you
Okay,
click
let's see
it,
the chat. Just on my iPad.
well,
Yeah, I
that's
see private chat. Yeah.
so you might be having your windows expanded. That might be why you can't see the comments, but I'm going to put them up anyway when it's time. Comments are for, the people that are watching us if they wanted to
Sure.
comment, and private chats for us. Like if you want to tell us a secret and you want anybody else to hear it, you just put that in that chat.
Okay.
So how
Sounds
are
good.
you?
I'm great, thank you.
So
Yeah, very
what's been
good.
going on since you were Tom? Like catch us up so we can, because what's going to happen is when you're done, they're going to go look for all of that and watch it if they haven't already.
Mm,
What's been happening?
okay. Well, it's been a long time, so I
It
mean, quite
has.
a bit
Good.
has happened, I imagine. I mean, I think that was the first time I was on the show. It's the second season, right? And
Yes, it
that was
was.
probably 2014, 15, something like that. I
Yes.
think around then. So, that's 7 years. I mean, I think I was living in Los Angeles when I got the gig, and I came up here to do it. And it was kind of, I'd come up and stay with friends and come film it. And I was still living in LA. I did about 5 years in LA from about 20 to 25, 26. And then yeah, I moved back up to Vancouver where I was raised about 3, 4 years ago, and been based here. But I work, between the U.S. and Canada still, and yeah, I'm sure everybody knows when calls the Hearts filmed to Vancouver, so that's why I mentioned that. In those years, what have I done? I mean, I've probably been on, I think, 10 different television series at least in that time.
You had a
Um,
great and it doesn't have to be just Hallmark related. And I don't mean to interrupt, but what about the wonderful movie you did? It came out it was this year, right? It came out not too long ago.
for
Which
Hallmark.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Love Classified. That was the
that's
first
it.
like Hallmark film I'd done before. And I actually really liked it.
Different.
Yeah, it was different. I think as far as Hallmark goes, people agreed that it had a different feel than a lot of the content people were used to. And I know Hallmark's done some rebranding and whatnot in the last few years, so it's probably something to do with it. But yeah, it was quite cool. It was very modern, very social media influenced, and kind of an ensemble piece more than just being like a romantic storyline with some
It was
fantastic actors. Yeah.
I liked the relationships that you were trying to be healed, with mom. So
Yeah.
it was pretty it was to me I thought it was more on the serious side, and I was surprised it was like on the Hallmark channel and not like
Hmm.
more serious movies tend to be on the Hallmark movies and mysteries channel. But it was on Hallmark's channel itself. It was good. So it was nice to
Hmm.
see you. So
Thank you.
are you allowed to talk about what you were doing before you came here? You were doing something with a book?
Oh, yeah, so I do I record audiobooks. I've done this is my fourth one now. Um yeah, this is a second Canadian one I've done. Um yeah, I don't think it's super secret or anything. It's
Okay.
called oh, I'm blanking on the title now. That's not good. The Things I Came Here With, I believe. It's based on a biography of a tattoo artist from Toronto. I did one earlier this year called In Every Wave, which was a short drama. Then I've done two romance novels by the same author, that adapted into audiobook. So I found this a lot of fun. It's especially during COVID, it was fun to have a gig that, wasn't dependent on if anyone was sick or not. You could always kind of record, and you had a booth, and you could do it with one sound engineer. And I found them really satisfying. I was always the person in class growing up that would raise his hand to read, the
Oh,
paragraph. So you know what I mean. It kind of plays into that need to just perform, and so I enjoy them quite a bit. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. That's a cool thing. I'm a
Mhm.
teacher, so I would appreciate you raising your hand and reading for the class. I like that.
Yeah, it was either teacher's nightmare because I would be, very disruptive. But then I got to perform, I would, be very excited
Okay.
and the joy.
Do you have a movie or anything coming out that we can know about, or is it quiet? You have to be quiet, can't
Yeah,
say.
no, there's a film I've done for Amazon. This was going to be called
Mm,
Amazon Freevee. So I think it's kind of a new streaming platform within Amazon that's not Prime, but it's free
right.
television. I think there'll be ads and whatnot. But I think a lot of streaming platforms are doing this. But it was pretty cool, and it was pretty high quality, and some decent names attached. And it was called Hotel for the Holidays, and it's a Christmas
Um,
romance that's going to be coming out, sometime in December, I believe, obviously around
I'm gonna
Christmas.
put I'm gonna put that in the chat. Although people could come back and see Hotel.
Yeah, that stars Hotel for the Holidays. It's going to star Madeleine Petsch of Riverdale fame. People will probably know her from
Yes,
that.
yes.
And Mina Masood, who played Aladdin in the most recent iteration with Will Smith a couple of years back. So some pretty heavy hitters. It was very fun, very funny, and it was quite cool. I got to play British. I'm British originally, born there, so I got to use the accent I had till I was probably about 10 or so. So it was that was a fun challenge.
Wait a minute. You were born where? Where
I
were
was
you?
born in London, England.
So you
hmm
got rid of your accent?
Well, I grew up here basically, right? So I mean, I had my parents' accent till I was a bit older, but I think a lot of kids have told this to me that if you've been raised in a household with an accent and you lose it, you can always kind of still
Yes.
play with it and comes back, and then you end up being kind of adept at accents. So I've always been a bit of a chameleon with that. Moving to America for a couple of years, always sounded a bit American since then, but then I can play British, and I've played with a lot of different accents in my career, so I find that kind of a blessing.
Someone's asking, even though I'm just curious, they want to hear the accent. They said, I'm gonna. She says,
um, yeah. So this one was RP. So he's a royal type. So this character was quite well refined as far as an accent is concerned. So it was more like that.
"That's cute. I love it." Do you have siblings, or are they older, young?
Yeah, I have a younger sister. She's 28. Her name's Sophia.
Does she
hmm
have the accent? Like, does she have?
No, none of us do. She was born in Canada because we immigrated
Okay,
when I was very small. So she doesn't have it. I think she can. She actually has a bit of an affectation. Just having British parents, it happens a
sure,
lot.
sure.
Yeah, she's a teacher as well, actually. So
Oh, well, thank you. I
yeah.
love that. Christina was saying thank you. Oh my God, she loved that.
You're welcome,
Wait,
Christina.
wait, Brian. Here's what Brian has to say to you. Bloody good accent.
Bloody good accent. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Oh my goodness. All right, so let's talk Tom Thornton. And Kathy, do you have anything you want to start off with?
I just loved I was saying earlier, I just loved the pairing of Tom and Julie because you were like the younger versions of Jack and Elizabeth,
hmm
only out to the nth degree. It's like you
hmm
were the anti Jack and the anti Elizabeth, actually. You just had so many fun adventures. And I was sorry to see the storyline kind of end. And they never referred to it again. I mean, at least tell us they, went off and ran off together or something, but they never really
Yeah.
again.
I don't know how much I haven't followed the show that closely since, but I guess maybe because it was out east, right? Our storyline was set out east, and in the Hamilton storyline, that maybe it just wasn't revisited as much, or maybe they thought it drew away too far from the main romance. I'm not sure. But I had a lot of fun doing it. It was a good half a season or something, or maybe
Yeah,
more.
it was a
And
lot.
yeah, it was good chunky scenes. I was watching it again yesterday just to kind of refresh my memory. 'Cause I don't think I've watched it since it came out, and God, I looked a lot younger, I realized, but we all probably did.
You look
And
like a boy.
it was yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember having a lot of good chemistry with Charlotte and with Dan, and it was we had a good time off set as well, off camera, and good chemistry. And I think I stayed with Dan on and off a couple times in his apartment in Vancouver. We stayed buddies, and Um, yeah, I had a lot of fun on it. And I mean, yeah, maybe it was for them. They saw it as kind of a complete storyline, and there was enough
Yeah.
going on elsewhere that, I mean, like you can't follow every storyline, right? I mean, some things just kind of they feel hit their natural end, and they did get to that point with the characters where Tom went off to kind of grow and
Yes.
would kind
Yes.
of let him go. So yeah, I'm
You,
not sure. Who knows? Never know. Maybe in season 26 he'll come back or something.
Maybe.
God
Now,
willing, do you
would
find it challenging or fun or playing the bad boy versus playing the good guys all the time in movies?
Yeah, no, I enjoy it for sure. I mean, as bad boy as when calls the heart can get, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
good
still
point.
it's a pretty wholesome version of a bad guy. I think I had it like half a sip of beer or something, and I did find it pretty funny when I got in a fight scene with a guy who was an ex-UFC fighter, and I throw him across a room. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that's never going to happen again on a TV set. The bars fight scene I think I had with him. Yeah, I enjoy that. Yeah, I like playing more villainous characters. I've played a couple in my time. A show I just did came out on Netflix called Imperfects, and I played the baddie and the heavy in the first two episodes, and that was a lot of fun. I like it. I think a lot of actors agree with it that it's just there's more to play with. There's more variety. I feel like you can add to a character. Not that playing more wholesome good guys doesn't have that, but it's you don't get to be that in your own life as much, right? So playing someone with a little more edge, yeah, for me is a lot of fun.
I was saying earlier, I feel like as the seasons went on, they became much more modest. So, like in season 7 and 8, we would see operations, but everybody was covered and you saw nothing. And I was like, I forgot. There you were. You're laying in the bed, and Faith, Andrea, she unbuttons your shirt, opens it, and we're like, we could see your chest.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
God, a
wait a minute.
chest.
I know. Back then we were like, and Kathy goes, that's because he was only 12, and that was
Yeah,
it. She was joking. And then
yeah. No, I was barely 12. Yeah, it's true.
I meant the character, not you. But the thing is that they did that then, and then all of a sudden they changed it, and I was surprised. If you watch through the seasons, you would see that.
That's
Um,
interesting.
I have a question about the hospital. So I remember Andrea telling me that the hospital really was part of the school. Like they just redid it. It was really the school on the set, and they redid it and moved off to the side to make it look like the hospital. Do you
Yeah,
remember
that
that?
sounds about right. That was a long time ago. We did film a bit on in the Jamestown set, right, which is where they filmed the
Yes.
majority of the scenes out west, and we did film a bit there, and they cheated it to make it look like Hamilton. Most of it was on, which was quite fun and rare in Vancouver, especially was there was a lot of it was on location, so it was, I think the scenes that were the grand house, I guess
Yes. Where was that?
that's literally like 2 minutes up the road from me here in Shaughnessy. It's actually I think the University Women's Club
That's it.
called
It was college.
Highcroft.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's still there. It's beautiful. I go jogging past it all the time. And then we filmed downtown in Gastown in Vancouver, some of the downtown Hamilton streets. But then yeah, we did cheat a lot on the official set out in Langley where they filmed the majority of the
Yeah,
footage.
that's what I was
Hmm.
thinking. And you got now, did you actually get to drive the car, the picture show car?
Oh man, bringing up old dinosaur bones here. I'm trying to remember. I mean, I think so. Maybe it was towed, but
And you
they might have been cheated where they had the cameras just on it and
right.
had us being pulled by a car. That's usually what they do is they have you being pulled and they attach camera rigs on the outside because they don't trust you with a vehicle, especially a vehicle that old. I can't recall. I wonder.
That's
That's a
okay.
good
I
question.
was just wondering because you would be one of the very first people that actually got to drive in the picture cars. And I do know that they don't like I had Nate on Palshay, who's in charge of all of that. And Nate was
Yeah.
saying that if they're gonna really drive it now, they have to have a lesson. And then
Oh yeah.
every year he goes, yes, because they don't remember what to do. I was just
Right, right. Well, let's just say I did drive it then, because that
okay.
sounds way
You and
cooler than I
Julie.
didn't. Yeah.
Yes, you and
Yeah.
Julie kissing in the tree in that car, I think. KIS Society. I'm only
Yeah,
kidding. I'm just
yeah, yeah.
well,
Yeah,
wait,
when we crashed it, right? I remember that.
right. Well,
Uh-huh.
oh, I didn't even
Yep.
think of that. Okay. I wanted to just share with you some of the funny things that you know, or things that are people are saying. Tom, why do you think Tom and Julie did not try the romance again? What do you think?
Hmm. I have a feeling she probably smartened up and wait, this is a terrible choice for my future, and I should pick someone with far better prospects. It's got about a Titanic storyline, right? She went, nah, not going down that road. He's got to sort himself out for a while. You know, it's like the impetuous romance of youth where you get over it
Yeah.
eventually and go,
Yep.
maybe this wasn't the right pick for me, you know. So perhaps that's what happened. I think he probably went off and maybe met somebody more in his bracket and it made sense. You know, maybe
Okay.
that's what happened.
All right, we like it. We'll take it. Lillian said she loved, and several of the viewers are saying they loved when your character and Tom and Jack, they got thrown out of the
Mm-hmm.
bar scene. That was
Yeah,
funny.
that was the fight scene I was mentioning with the guy who
Yes.
was a UFC fighter from Alberta, and where I had to, you know, deck him and he rolled over a table, and I thought it was hilarious because I was probably like 2 feet shorter than him and about 100 pounds lighter, and I was like, "You're
Did you
making
do
me
all
look
your
so
own?
good here, man."
You did all your own stunts, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, I think that was a pretty like, huh, out the door, and oh, okay, yeah, it wasn't too Tom Cruise or anything. Yeah, that
Oh,
was fun.
it says I love how Tom landed at Julie's feet.
That was cute.
Oh yeah, that was fun. I
Yeah.
remember that.
And Arlene say Tom and Julie had hot lips in every scene, at least for Hallmark.
I don't know what hot lips mean. What does that mean? Is that a specific thing I should know? Hot lips.
Kissing, like you know, like
Oh, you're
because
just kissing.
in Hallmark, you know how they don't well, they kind of are breaking the rules recently, but you only get that one kiss like at the very end, but now we're getting them a little more frequently, but they're saying for Hallmark
Ooh.
standards, used to were like
This
little
was
two little.
the saucy 2015 or whatever. This was back in the cowboy days of Hallmark or something. That's
I don't
funny.
know. I don't know. I don't know.
I watch too much HBO, I guess, so I'm not shocked enough by that. But I guess if you're used to more you know, wholesome content.
I think we all watch a little too much HBO. It's okay.
Mhm.
Oh, this has been so nice for you to come on. I love it. And then we get to revisit with you.
And
And
Mhm.
there's
I hope that there will be an opportunity at some point for you to come back and revisit Tom, because Hope Valley really needs a bad boy, and you've got a nephew you haven't met, or Tom has a nephew that he hasn't met. So
Mhm.
there would
Oh,
be.
well, that'd be yeah, that could be exciting. Yeah,
Mhm.
I always think that's pretty cool in shows, and they bring somebody back, you know, ages later, and just throw them into the mix and see where they're at. And it's fun as an actor too, because you get to reinvent, you get this whole story of what happened to them, and it's kind of a lot of freedom to design who they could be. So,
yeah.
yeah, that could be really cool. I live down the road, so you know, when calls the
Oh,
heart, if you're interested, you know, you let me know.
we'll put that out there. I'll call up Peter DeLuise. I'll let him know. Um,
Okay.
okay, so this is just people showing you love before we say goodnight. Says Max was one of several Hallmark and When Calls the Heart stars that were in the VC Andrews Castile family saga.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember Jen, or I think she was by June now, Laporte. She was the leading lady on our film, and that was called Web of Dreams, and she played my stepdaughter, and it was a very intense film. And
Yes.
I think she got on When Calls the Heart as well, and I'm not sure who else. Maybe Keenan Tracy. I think he's been on both shows. I'm not sure. It's you know, Vancouver acting world is pretty small, and everyone that's kind of been on one thing has probably been on the other at some point. Especially One Calls the Heart, seeing as it's been around for you
Yes.
know, 10 years now. Everyone's had a piece at it.
Also, Murdoch Mysteries. A lot of people cross
Oh,
over.
really?
Yes, or on I've seen because I'm a big fan of Murdoch Mysteries, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, there they are again. You know, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Janice is saying, ah, you've got your beautiful curls pulled back.
I had much shorter hair, I think, on the show I did, but I've grown it out for a Disney Plus thing I've done, and I've just kept it. So yeah.
Disney Plus. What did you do on Disney Plus?
Is that the
Well,
Mandalorian?
I was in the Mandalorian, yeah,
Okay.
and then I was in the Book of Boba Fett as well, which was
Yes.
the spin-off show of it. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I
Okay.
just kept it for that.
Gotcha. I thought it
Hmm.
was something.
As an actor, do you prefer, just your personal preference, Max? Do you prefer to move around in different roles on different shows and the occasional movie, or would you, if available, would you prefer to have just like a regular gig where you're a regular character on a series that goes on from year to year?
Yeah, like having your own parking spot. I mean, that'd be nice. Yeah, it'd have to be the right thing for sure. I mean, I haven't really had that experience where I've been on a show long term, where you know, year after year, been on the same thing. I mean, I would be open to that for sure if it was the right project. But it is fun jumping from project to project because you know, you get to have just variety. You know, I filmed a movie out that Hotel for the Holidays was out in Ottawa, and then I filmed the Disney Plus stuff in LA, and I filmed the Love Classified in Victoria. Like I get to jump around a lot, and I really like that. I think maybe if I get a little bit older and say you have a family and some stability of having one gig and run one place, I really understand why people crave that. And also just obviously the you know, reliability of having a constant gig and paycheck. I mean, it is you can't take away from that. So at the
No.
right time, I would very much like that. Sure.
Yeah. It's Christina saying yes. We want Tom back.
All right, start a petition.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Max, for coming on, and loved you doing the accent. Rona, great to see you again. Chris McNally. Oh yes, Chris McNally was on one of the
The Castile movies. Yeah.
Yes.
He was a rider.
Gotcha.
Yes. And
Mhm.
Janice is saying thank you, and Arlene is saying thank you, Max, for dropping in to talk to us. We love
Yeah,
it.
it's fun. I was talking to Charlotte today. We were just messaging about this because she said, I think she came and spoke to you guys, right?
Did.
One point. Yeah, she's lovely. She's
I
great.
love her. Yeah.
Yeah, we did see each other again we did the reunion episode of I think season 5. There was a
Yes.
wedding, and then we all got back together for that. That was pretty funny seeing everybody a couple of years later, but yeah, that was still like 4 years ago or something. So
Yeah,
it's
it was
been
a
a minute.
while. Yes, it was,
Mhm.
but it was a good scene. I was glad that you got to. And Brooke Shields played your mama.
Did she?
Yes, she's
I
Jack.
think yeah.
Jack and Tom's mom, but I don't think your paths like crossed, did they?
No, they didn't. That'd have been really cool. No,
I know.
I met Lori on that episode in the makeup trailer, but I hadn't met her before. But no, I hadn't met Brooke Shields. That'd be pretty cool. That's pretty flattering.
I know.
Yeah, the spawn of Brooke Shields. Wow,
Yes, and you're
gone right to my head.
I know you should be. And what's the say? You're supposed to be more like the dad, and Jack is more like his mom. And according to what that sweet conversation you have, and you cry, and they talk about the pocket watch, the whole little thing. You probably don't
Yeah, I
remember.
remember that. I watched some
Oh,
of
you
that
do? We do.
that scene as well. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that wasn't bad acting. That was pretty good.
No,
And we had some
you
good
were
chemistry,
good.
me and Dan.
You had to go watch just to make sure that you did okay. You did remember. Oh, he froze. He's frozen. All right. I think little
No.
Jack, are you there? Hello? He's freezing. I think little Jack will take on Tom's personality.
I think it's a bit glitchy. I'm gonna jump off and come back on.
Okay. Let's see. He's gonna add him back in. We will. And then we'll say our good nights. Does anyone need some coffee to stay awake, or is it just me? Because my time is like late. But we could say, Max, can you hear us? I don't know if he can hear us.
The little circle is still going around.
Okay. There he is. There you are. We were going to say good night to you.
Okay, there we go. Gotcha. Sorry, I lost you for a while. Okay, well, thank you so much for having me on. And it was
We're
great
going to do our
talking to you
best
guys.
to get them to bring Tom back on, and we're going to look forward to seeing Hotel for the Holidays.
Yes, we promise.
Thank you very much. Send some strongly worded letters to them.
Okay, we will.
All right, you guys have a good night. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay. All right, everyone. That was fun. It was nice seeing
Nice
him.
guy.
Yeah, I loved it. All right, peeps. Does anybody have any questions for us? You're all saying thank you to Max and thanks to Tom. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Max. If not, we are going to move ahead to season 3 for next Monday. I can't believe it's season 3, but it's already our 4th episode. Like, where does time go, Kathy? Like,
It's fall and cold already, and I
Yeah.
can't deal with this.
no. Oh,
It was summer one day, and then the next day it was autumn, and there was no transition. It was just warm.
and then cold, and that was it.
Mhm.
And the hurricane's coming too on the East Coast over here. So
Ooh.
I know. Yes, thank you. You're welcome, Gloria. They're saying thank you, Roxanne and Kathy. I'm loving these chats. Good. Enjoyed that very much. Love his hair
Lemon
down. Yes.
bloom. Yeah.
Yes. All right. What a cutie. All right. Good night, everyone. We'll
And
see
next
you
week
next
at the
Monday.
regular time, right?
Yes, regular. Unless somebody says to us, "Can you accommodate us?" And we will.
If Pastor Frank ever comes on, he can do it at whatever time he wants. 1
Yeah.
a.m., I'm there.
Of course. That's fine. You took it to happy in bed. Let me know how it went.